This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/hugh for a free trial, and if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code HUGH at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. Warning. The word stupid in the title of this video is not to be construed as referring to you, dear viewer. Claudia insisted I make this clear. Its purpose, rather, is to recall political strategist James Carville's "It's the economy, stupid," an extraordinarily simple message behind an extraordinarily complex set of issues which helped propel his candidate into the White House during the 1992 presidential election. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant. And after having Nikon's $4,000 Z8 in-house for the last week or so, because it is a fair certainty that by now you've watched many excellent, highly detailed videos, not only about the Z8, but also about the pro sports and wildlife optimized, no excuses video capable $5,500 Z9 from whence it came, I will spare you the dull ache of wading through the specs yet again, and instead just cut to the chase from a hybrid shooter's perspective. The Z8 is not a mini Z9. It is all but a full Z9, minus the built-in battery grip, for $1,500 less. That's kind of it, save for a couple of quibbles at the margin, though for some of us, fair enough, they may be more than quibbles, but hold that thought. Thus, it's the price stupid, a parallel construction. An equally simple message, like Carville's, behind another deceptively complex set of tasks, a reductio ad absurdum, which, put differently, is this. What makes the Z8 innovative and compelling is not the arrival of new technology, industrial design, or ergonomics. There is little to nothing of consequence separating the Z8 from its 18-month-older forebear in these matters, other than size and weight, but instead, the strategy, financial management, manufacturing, logistics, and the will allowing Nikon to deliver a lopped-off from the bottom Z9, same manual of arms, same autofocus system, same video capabilities, same burst rates, buffer, build quality, illuminated dials, you get the idea, while actually throwing in a second USB-C port, yay, to make it an even better streaming camera than the Z9, for just 2/3 the price. These last 6 words. For just 2/3 the price. That's the innovation. Because it fundamentally alters what other manufacturers have to come up with to justify prices any higher. And that is because the Z9 was already good enough at launch to wrest the crown of flagship among flagships from Sony's $6,500 A1. Whatever other minor changes Nikon has made to achieve the lower price point of the Z8, like the 90 rather than 120-minute video recording limit due, I suppose, to the 8's reduced thermal mass. Although unlimited recording is what we need at Three Blind Men and an Elephant anyway. Or the single CF Express card slot complemented by an SD-only card slot rather than the 2 CF Express card slots in the 9. None of them, to my mind, prevents the Z8 from also rising above the A1 and, for that matter, Canon's $5,500 R3 because it allowed me to create images like this. and video like this, because of course this video is being recorded on the Z8 at a simple bog standard 4K 24p long GOP 10-bit 420 in H.265 wrapper. Even video like this shot under a bright midday sun in Washington Square Park without the benefit of an ND filter because I forgot it at home and just jacked the shutter speed. Which I suppose is proof positive that while I am a hybrid shooter, I am a photographer first, a street photographer first, actually, a YouTuber and documentary filmmaker and live event streamer second, third, and fourth, respectively. Which in turn means that I care far less about things like 8K, N-Log, RAW, 120 frames per second linear focus throw, 30 frames per second burst rates, or deep fast buffers than I do about feel in hand, compact dimensions, weather sealing, unlimited 4K video recording, autofocus, and shutter angle, actually, because I hate futzing with things if there's any way I can avoid it. Call it Huey's hierarchy of needs, but that's just me. Still, it's easy for me to conclude that not only is the 8 the most complete, compelling, and powerful package in the smallest and least expensive envelope possible within the Nikon lineup, the one Nikon full-frame mirrorless camera to have when you're having only one, but given Nikon's full-frame mirrorless Z lens catalog, the most compelling platform for a flagship system in the entire mirrorless hybrid camera segment, whether we're talking our particular use cases, street photography, YouTube video production, documentary filmmaking, and streaming, as I just said, or any other use case, from sports to wildlife, fashion, and more. For now. One does have to wonder what a Z7 III might bring to the table, what the next generation from any of the other full-frame players might bring as well, and when we might have them. The rest, for the most part, again, from my perspective, is noise. I simply don't see any reason, for example, to prattle on about overheating during 8K video recording because although I appreciate the potential use of 8K resolution as an alternative to long glass for, in our case, short B-roll clips on the streets of New York, and the image quality is fabulous, and thermal management is something very important to test. My view is that no one who does long-form video should rely on any camera without active cooling, that is, without a built-in fan, irrespective of resolution or codec. Especially when it must be asked, how many of us, how often, will be shooting long-form videos even at 4K 24p, let alone 8K? Never mind doing it indoors in an air-conditioned space, the kind of setting where most of the reviews I've watched have tested thermal management, instead of outdoors, where higher resolution, longer distances, and higher speed, bigger space to gain that speed, make more sense. On the other hand, as I mentioned earlier, unlimited 4K recording is critical to us for interviews and conversations, and to my pleasant surprise, in our standard but brutal outdoor 4K overheating test, based actually on a real-world use case of our own while filming our Mariner East documentary series, the Z8 did reach its 90-minute prescribed limit, recording to a 128GB CF Express card at 4K 24p, 10-bit 420 H.265 without overheating. It was a bright, mostly sunny Sunday afternoon with an ambient temperature of 75 degrees Fahrenheit, a little bit cooler actually than we normally test, the camera set to high temp, and the rear screen extended a few millimeters away from the body. The camera did, however, give us a hot card warning. Not bad for a camera without active cooling. So yes, I can see shooting short 8K B-roll clips in New York, but that 90-minute cutoff would preclude its use for us on long-form videos. We just have to make sure those kinds of videos ran shorter or were recorded externally. But then we'd be exiting the no futz zone, which is something we try to avoid whenever possible. Although, unlimited recording or not, we'd never shoot those kinds of projects at 8K. No one, and I mean no one, wants to be recorded at 8K, never mind the processing overhead during edit, or the fact that basically no one has 8K TVs to make use of it anyway. I'm not particularly bothered by a whole bunch of other things either, although again, some of us are, and I understand. Like the lack of a higher resolution EVF. Doesn't bother me on the Z8. Not only because the existing EVF is very, very good, but because I can't imagine what difference it would make when autofocus will be the focusing mode of choice, not just for me on that camera, but for 99% of us 100% of the time. And I think I've already told you how good the autofocus on the Z8 is. Second, maybe only to our A7R5. Or the absence of a new higher resolution sensor, because the 45 megapixel 8K video sensor in the Z8 is already one of the best in the business. And because while Claudia and I both prefer riding Moore's Law and using pixels rather than longer glass for reach, the Z8 already has enough resolution and is already big and meaty enough that this ship has sailed. The Z8 basically begs to be used with long glass for sports and wildlife, and Nikon's super telephotos are so good that it would be a shame not to use them on the 8. 400mm f4.5, anyone? I have moaned and groaned for years about the absence of an internal electronic variable neutral density filter. I'd still really like to see that happen, but I've given up on that happening anytime soon in any hybrid mirrorless. There's simply no point continuing to bang my head against that particular wall. Although, hold that thought. The relatively modest battery, the two different types of card slots, I get it. A longer lasting battery would be nice. It doesn't last as long as the one in the Z7 II. But I was still at 40% capacity after firing off a couple of hundred shots from full. Extra Nikon batteries are small and don't cost all that much anyway. It's easy enough to clip a diminutive 50-watt-hour Nano 1 V-mount battery to your belt and run a USB-C cable from it to the 8. Or, circumstances permitting, forget about batteries altogether and just plug in a spare MacBook power brick into the wall and run that same USB-C cable to the same USB-C port. You never have to worry about running out of power short of a blackout, and the camera will run cooler. As for two different card slots, another nice to have, yes. But I've had no issues with just that scenario on our A7R5, although it does help that both slots on the A7R5 can take SD cards, so there is that. Although, I still haven't figured out how to set slot 2 for overflow in video. Like some other camera systems, the rationalization between photo and video still menus leaves room for improvement. The one nit I really do have, and this is a nit, I wish Nikon would introduce shutter angle in a firmware update. Unless it already has one and I just haven't figured out how to use it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. The big question remains, I know, is does the Z8 make sense for you? But come on, you already know the answer. It depends. That's because you're the one who knows your use cases, priorities, and financial situation. I don't. My only counsel to you is this. Beyond my favorite question for this kind of thing, what do you think the new piece of kit gives you that you want, need, and can't get from what you already have? Please don't make the decision based on spec sheets alone, because that is just speculation. Stop it! But I will give you this. First, for existing Z6 and Z7 series shooters, the Z8 definitely has significantly better autofocus, if you need it. Significantly better video. Yes, if you need that. Higher burst rates, bigger buffer, if you need them. Better ergos, actually. Better feel in hand if your hands are as big or bigger than mine. I can just palm a regulation-sized basketball. That's second port, if. But do not underestimate the value of smaller, lighter, and significantly less expensive. And while the autofocus of the first generation 6 and 7 in particular is straight up not up to snuff, the Mark IIs are pretty good. if not up to Sony or Canon standards, now Lumix S5 II standards as well, for all but the most challenging video, sports and wildlife, and IAF shooting. In fact, Claudia's take is this. She doesn't need or want more than what her Z7 II already gives her. She prefers the smaller size and lighter weight. She prefers the longer lasting battery. She loves how easy it is to dial in what she wants using the camera's slightly different manual of arms. And most importantly, she loves the imagery she gets from it. Me too. Second, if you're a full-frame Nikon DSLR shooter, any brand DSLR shooter for that matter, someone who enjoys the size and feel of your system, but wouldn't mind something lighter? Well, if you are interested in exploiting the many advantages of mirrorless, from IBIS to real-time through the viewfinder, depth of field and exposure previews, post-shot review, better video, and more, if you've been toying with the idea of moving into mirrorless, assuming you can afford the switch, straight up, go directly to the Z8. This, to my way of thinking, is an easy call, especially since I just happen to have Nikon's legendary D3 mated to the equally legendary Nikkor 28-300 with me, the kit used by Jay Maisel later in his career. And the Z8 with Nikkor Z24-120 f4S just blew it out of the water on every basis. Not close. Although, fair enough, that 12-megapixel D3 kit is from another era. And there will be a fair number of you coming not from a D3 or a D3X, but instead a D850. And if you are coming from a D850, you will want the superior autofocus of the 8 versus even the 6 and 7 Mark IIs. Third, if you're already a Canon, Sony, Panasonic, or Leica mirrorless shooter, it's a more difficult call. Why switch? We'll start with the lenses. As I've said a number of times, since 2018 when they first came out, I think Nikon's full-frame mirrorless Z-Lens catalog is the best out there for the money, almost irrespective, actually, of the price. Better than Canon's full-frame mirrorless RF line by virtue of its breadth, depth, value, coexistence with a growing roster of third-party manufacturers, and optical performance, especially when it comes to non-telephoto primes. Canon forces a choice between very economically priced but consumer-grade primes like their $170 RF50 1.8 STM and very expensive high-end primes like their $2,300 51.2L. Nikon offers an autofocusing 51.2 as well, their 1900 1.2S, which though bigger is also faster to focus, but their $530 Nikkor Z50 1.8S is stunning at any price, closing in on Zeiss Otis and Leica Apo Summicron SL performance. Yes, the Z50 1.8. The Z-Lens catalog, if not as broad nor deep as Sony's, is as good optically, sometimes better than Sony's, especially when it comes to chromatic aberration and distortion, even when comparing, for example, Nikon's Z1.8 primes to Sony's G Master primes. Less expensive than the G Masters too. Again, $530, $540 for the 51.8S versus $1,300 for Sony's outstanding 51.4 G Master. Often better designed to minimize focus breathing too, though the Nikkor Z51.8S is dramatically better, for example, than Sony's incredibly compact and tasty, but dragon-level focus breathing Zeiss 55 1.8. Although, to be fair, Sony's very latest cameras have onboard focus breathing control, available, however, for only some of Sony's lenses. What about the L-mount Alliance? My personal favorite for my personal work. Again, like for like, the Z-Lens catalog, particularly the S-line, I should have made this point at the outset, is better than most L-mount lenses, approaching the optical performance, if not the mechanical robustness, as I just said, of Leica's Apex Apo Summicron SL line. And the L-mount Alliance simply does not have the super telephoto depth that Nikon does, prime or zoom. Nikon's best lenses are generally sharper edge-to-edge and better corrected for chromatic aberration than Panasonic's In particular, yet again, the Nikon Z1.8 S primes versus Panasonic's video-centric 1.8 primes, yet similarly priced and generally just as well corrected for focus breathing, which is quite well. Nikon's best lenses are generally as sharp or sharper, generally better corrected for chromatic aberration, sometimes faster and surer to focus than Sigma's best lenses, both their jewel-like DGD and I series, which I love and have paid for with my own hard cash, and their even higher performance DGD and art lenses, like that 51.4, which is also outstanding. Though the Nikon is significantly more expensive once one moves beyond those primes. Sigma's 24 to 72.8 DGDN art, for example, it's terrific. Very close to Nikon's stellar 24 to 72.8, but the Sigma is half the price. I do lament the fact that Sigma still doesn't offer a DG70 to 200 as of this recording in May 2023. Next come the cameras themselves. I've already said that the Z8 is the most complete, ergonomically satisfying, performant, and keenly priced hybrid for that level of performance, superseding a slew of quite extraordinary cameras, including Canon's EOS R3 and R5, even Sony's A1, and our own A7 R5. Technically, it's undeniable. I value its performance, but I found the Z8 more enjoyable in hand with superior ergos and menu system. I don't particularly care about the R3 or R5, because for all of the things they do so well, neither one rises to the level of meeting my basic needs, like reliable thermal management for long-form video, or in the case of the R3, a high-resolution sensor. And I find their lens catalog, strategy, and pricing unpalatable. When it comes to the L-mount Alliance, well, at one end of the spectrum, my far more expensive Leica SL2 is smaller, lighter, simpler to use, and more enjoyable for me. But the Z8 has far better autofocus, a much nicer shutter, actually, and simply outclasses the SL2 for video, although the SL2's video is lovely. Although this last point doesn't matter to me at all because I use the SL2 as a purely photographic companion. And when we do record long-form videos, there is only one camera that I've ever used that I completely trust to go the distance. And that camera, at the other end of the spectrum, is Panasonic's $2,000 24 megapixel L-mount Lumix S5 II, or its fraternal twin, the newly launched S5 IIX. With its brilliantly conceived, executed, and integrated active cooling system, and therefore unlimited recording capability, highly performant hybrid phase detect video autofocus for everything we do, finally, woohoo, a terrific set of 4K capabilities, great ergos, great IBIS, great ceiling, same resolution EVF as the Z8, and a far smaller, lighter body to boot, which, if offering neither the ultimate resolution nor speed of the Z8, not the full-width readout at 4K 60p, no 4K 120p, not the build quality either, is still a better balanced hybrid proposition in the real world for 99% of us 99% of the time, beginning with a price half that of the Z8, and for which I already have a pile of excellent L-mount glass. I'll recap it this way for now. As I said at the outset, the Z8 is not a mini Z9, but instead essentially a full Z9 minus the built-in battery grip for $1,500 less. I think this makes the Z8 a home run. It is the camera Nikon needed to fully realize and make more accessible the brilliance of its Z-Lens catalog, leveraging that glass in the real world at a keener price than anything Nikon has yet offered. More than that, I think the 8 is, as of today, a better foundation for a pinnacle full-frame mirrorless hybrid system than anything from Canon, arguably better than anything from Sony. The interesting thing is that while the L-mount Alliance doesn't really have a dog in the hunt at this hybrid flagship level, the Z8 is simply a superior value with superior performance compared to Panasonic's S1 and Leica's SL2 series respectively. The little 24 megapixel S5 II and S5 IIX, coupled with the rapidly growing breadth and depth of the L-mount Alliance lens catalog at all but the super telephoto end, make a different case. That the industry's flagship hybrid cameras are, for 99% of us true hybrid shooters, 100% of the time, simply overkill. Of course, one more time, your mileage may vary, and that's just fine. Me personally, I want more than 24 megapixels worth of resolution for stills, and maybe, just maybe, more than 4K for video B-roll. In fact, if all our gear were to go up in smoke today, if that loss weren't covered by insurance, if I could have only one camera and one camera system, given our set of use cases across street photography, video production, and live streaming, the Z8 with Nikon's Z primes and zooms would quite likely be that system, an irresistible combination of performance, use in hand, and value. Although, I am thinking much smaller and lighter these days. Hold that thought for another video. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From custom domains to beautiful websites using their easily customizable templates that you can have up and running in minutes, e-commerce, email and email marketing, SEO, analytics, and scheduling, Squarespace does it all and has done it for us for the last 6 years. If you are a small to mid-sized business in any industry, Squarespace is the place to go for all of your website needs. Hop over to www.squarespace.com/Hugh for a free trial. And if you like what you see and want to move forward, receive 10% off your first order by using the discount code Hugh at checkout. Thanks, Squarespace. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comment section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost You affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.